Right, we've just finished recording an episode on that Saturday feeling. How long was that episode, Simon?
Oh, I didn't see.
You didn't look?
It went on for years.
I think it was about an hour and 10 minutes.
We're not allowed to
about
clock watch, we've been told.
We have been told off for clock watching, but we are not stopping clock watching. That's just what we do. This is the first bonus podcast. We don't need to introduce ourselves, do we? We've done that. They've heard the main podcast. These are going to be, we'll throw these in to this folder as often as we can, maybe once a fortnight, something like that. An extra 10 or 15 minutes. And because they're like extra ones that we're thrown into the folder, they probably won't always be on the subject of Doctor Who per se.
No.
But, you know,
Just
we
a chat.
figure, yeah, just a chat. The kind of, somebody said, and it was Andrea, wasn't it? Said about
My
being
partner.
in the room. Say what she said.
Well, she said we were talking about how the response has been so positive.
Yeah.
It's quite tricky, isn't it? Because
We're over the
we
moon
just
about
want to
it.
go, oh, that's really brilliant. We want to
Yeah.
shout it to the rooftops, but without bigging ourselves up too much. But she said, I haven't listened to a great deal of it, but with the little bits I've heard as you've been mixing it while you're at home, it sounds very natural. It sounds like you have a laugh together. And the impression I get is possibly that people like it because they want to be in the room there with you, having a laugh.
And that's, yes.
Yeah.
And you
I'll,
said that, and that's,
I'll put the script away then.
oh God, you laughed at least.
But it's
joke.
I was expecting tumbleweed. Hey, we're doing something different for this one.
Oh, right. No,
Sorry, Lee.
I thought, well, I kind of planned to do these, you know, when I set up that folder, I thought we'll do these little podcasts and throw them in. But, you know, that when you said that, Andrea said that, that's kind of summed it up perfectly. You know, in between recording the podcast, we do 2 every other Thursday night. And then for 15 or 20 minutes in between, we'll just be chatting as we get ready for the next one.
She used the word inclusive. And I
Yeah.
think we've had that as a comment, that it's inclusive. We don't try and exclude anyone.
Well, that's what, what I'm saying is,
That's why I'm in the podcast, because I don't know a lot. So you've even included me, because I have...
I think we all
We
have
just-
I think we all have a function. The 4 of us all
yeah.
work separately,
For
and we
you.
all bring something separate to it. And, you know, you say you don't know a lot, but that's not true. You know enough. You know plenty. You don't know everything. And Mark,
You
he's
know
probably the one who knows the
that
most out
little
of the
puppy
4 of
dog
us.
that never gets bought in the shop window? That's a bit like Simon, isn't it? So, you know.
You nasty bastard.
Shit bag.
Incredible. We will not be bleeping the swearing on this podcast, but we will try and keep it to a minimum. This is the grown-up version of the podcast. I thought with this first, you know, we
love
won't
you,
always
Simon.
be talking about Doctor Who, but what we'll try and be doing with these is just for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes each.
Yeah.
Every time we record, we'll try and do one of these for 20 minutes, and we'll try and do them on themes,
So
like
we'll
we always do, but not necessarily Doctor Who's type themes. This week, because this is the first one, I thought we'd just tell the story of how the Blue Box podcast happened.
The origin story.
Yeah, because I just thought it might, I don't know whether you're interested or not. If you're not interested, just press stop now and move on to the next episode.
I would.
But, you know, I mean, because I think it's kind of curious, because I was asked to do it, and I'm probably the person in this room who least would have ever have wanted to do that.
So
I mean-
how did it come about then?
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is, Lee,
Yeah.
you and Simon were doing radio,
Yeah.
and Mark was doing Nerdology, right? His own podcast.
Hang on a minute, hang on.
And I
Mark
had
was doing Nerdology. We
Yeah.
were doing the Phonic Screwdriver.
the phonics
Yeah,
screwdriver.
on Phonic FM 106.8. Carry on.
Nice. Smooth.
www.phonic.fm.
And what I'm saying is,
And on
I had
Mixcloud.
no interest whatsoever. And then Starburst just completely, totally and utterly out of the blue sent me an email and said, we want to expand our podcast base, because they do a radio show that gets put out as a podcast. Will you present a Doctor Who podcast on our behalf? And I looked at the email, 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 and I thought to myself, no, what the hell are you talking about? And then I just thought, well, no, they've asked me. So it would be, well, A, it would be a bit rude to say no, because they've asked me. And B, well, you've said this before, Lee. I'm the kind of person, you stick a challenge in front of me, and I don't just rise to it. I just kind of embrace it, don't I?
You just bite his face off.
Yeah. So that's one way of putting it. Yeah, that's J.R. Southall, biting the face off challenges. That's my new cat. That's going on a T-shirt. I have my legs just ever so slightly apart and biting the face of challenges. Will be the legend at the top of the T-shirt.
Yeah.
So they sent me this email. They said, will you do the podcast? And I said, okay. And then I thought to myself, okay, now I've got to do a podcast. So I thought, well, I can't do it on my own. I'm not just going to sit and talk into a microphone for an hour. Although, looking back,
It's pretty much the way it goes. But
Yeah, to be honest, that's the format.
it might have been. It might have been. It might have
All
been
you need-
better if it had been.
All
that.
you need is a parrot to respond.
Well, precisely, and that's why the very first person I thought of, Lee, was you.
I knew it. I knew you were going there.
You said, actually, that's not true. The very first person I thought of was Mark.
Yeah, that's true.
Not just because Mark was doing his own podcast, but also because he had interviewed me for that. And so I knew what the dynamic between us could be. But then, within seconds of thinking that, it suddenly struck me, Lee, that you do a radio show, which wasn't the Phonic Screwdriver then, it was the other one.
Yeah, spit and feathers.
So I knew, but I'd known you for years. And not only had I known you
12
for
years.
Is it 12 years?
Possibly
I don't think
more.
it's quite that long, is it?
Ooh.
Oh, it could be, yeah. But I remember, we used to bump each other we used to bump into each other in town. And before we knew it, like half an hour or 45 minutes was
man.
gone, and we had just been talking
Yeah.
about Doctor Who.
Your letters wouldn't get posted. I was late for work.
And when you used to get in trouble for it. I know.
It's a love made in heaven, wasn't it?
A love made in heaven.
Yeah.
A friendship made in heaven.
Or
let's say.
match made in heaven?
No, let's say a friendship.
What's the phrase?
Use the L word.
It was
I
a,
used the L.
It's too late.
It was
It's
a-
The love
it
word.
was a pod
Lesbian.
match made in heaven. But I remember
I'm going to get hit for that, aren't
at
I?
least 2 or 3 times you had said to me, JR, you and me should do a podcast together.
No, I did actually, yeah.
I mean,
Way
several
back.
times you said that, because that conversation's just used to
he's
go on.
regretted it every day since.
And when you said it, but when he said it, I had no idea what a podcast even was. And I had
Well,
to
you didn't
admit,
even have an MP3
Even though
player,
at the
did you?
time you pretended you thought you knew what it was.
I had
It's
no
to
idea.
save face. You went, no, it's okay, Lee. And I was thinking, oh, he knows his onions.
And from that day, to the email arriving from Starburst, I had not listened to a single one. So I knew the word podcast, and I knew what a podcast essentially entailed. So anyway, here I am, tasked with getting a podcast together, and I'm thinking, okay, it needs to be at least one other person. So I'm thinking Lee. So I think I emailed you first, Mark, and said, look, I've been asked to do this.
Yeah.
In fact, do you remember the email? What did I say?
You're doing it.
No, opposite.
No, actually, it was bit of a tricky one, this.
Yeah,
I've been asked
what
to
did it
do-
say when you finally fished it out of the spam filter?
I've been asked to do this podcast, and I'm going to do it with a guy called Lee. So I just thought I'd let you know.
Oh,
Pretty
right.
much.
No, there was definitely a PS there, but you were my
Oh
second
yeah,
choice.
but you were
Mark.
my second choice. No hard feelings, eh? Cheers.
And then, but then how long was it till you got the second email? Same day, or it was pretty quick, wasn't it?
Do you know what? I'm
Maybe
amazed
a
you
couple
know.
of days,
I'm amazed
a
you
few
remember
days.
every word.
Yeah. I did say, if you want a really boring guest to come on sometime, he hasn't got a clue about Doctor Who, you could always ask me to come on.
I think this was actually on Twitter, wasn't it? Or some of it was on Twitter.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
pretty soon, it wasn't long afterwards, I sent you another email.
Hmm.
And the other email said,
We don't have anywhere to record, so can we please record it at your house?
This is true.
We'll let you be in it.
This is true, isn't it?
that's not quite how it went.
You could be the drummer in the band if you let us have your garage.
Yeah.
At this point, I have to point out, I was expecting to be recording it at my house.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
So that was not quite how that...
I think you felt it would probably be a slightly more flexible setup if we had more than 2 people, because then you could,
Yeah.
if somebody couldn't make it one week, Lee seems to like to take
And
advantage
not
of that
just
quite a
that,
lot. But
because I thought...
you get the impression he doesn't like us or something, I don't know.
Is he birdieing you?
Well, I've never heard that expression before, but
Not from
I
this
like Lee a
distance.
lot, but not in that way.
Anyway, I mean, almost as soon as I'd said, I'm doing a podcast, got to get somebody to do it with, get Lee to do it with, and then I'm thinking, I thought of you both at the same time, and well, anyway, as it happened, I asked Lee first, and then I came back and asked you, because I just thought it'd be a better dynamic with 3 people than with 2.
Then
Plus
we did the first 3 and you thought, God, we need someone else.
Well, well, it wasn't. No, it wasn't at all like that. Actually, that wasn't what I was thinking at all. No, we did the first three, and I thought the first three went down pretty well.
I think I mentioned Simon, didn't I, at that point?
Yeah, you were just talking about. No, you were talking not in the context of the podcast. You were talking about the radio show, and you were talking about this guy Simon that you were doing the radio show with. And this was on the night we were recording the first 3 episodes, and I already had it in my head that 3 of us was good, and that always allowed us the safety net of still being 2, even if the third one couldn't make a particular week. But we recorded 3 episodes that first night, and I think we flagged a bit in the third one.
Yeah, I certainly did.
But not only that, they sort of, well, I thought we sort of gelled really quickly. And you were talking about this guy Simon who you were doing the radio show with, and you said the same thing about him, that you had known each other but not done anything together, but I didn't think you'd known each other very well, and you'd kind of bumped into each other. And from that conversation, which is probably maybe like the first serious conversation the two of you had, you decided to do a radio show and then just jumped into it together.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, you sort of barely knew each other, really.
We saw the challenge and we bit his face off.
Yeah, exactly. So you said that, and I went home and I was thinking to myself, well, this Simon guy sounds perfect. And then if ever somebody does drop out, we're still a 3, but more often than not, we'll be a 4. And that will give a... Because now that I have listened to some podcasts, and this can be true, just 2 people can be a little wearing, because if your conversation starts to run dry, you haven't got a third or a fourth person to jump in.
Yeah.
Whereas actually, now that there's 4 of us, it does just sound like 4 mates in a room having a chat, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, and it's nice. I enjoy listening to us. It sounds egotistical, doesn't it? But I kind of think I enjoy it.
It's kind of nice.
I don't
to
know
listen
whether
back to.
it's hard. It was hard to know whether anybody else enjoyed our conversations.
Yeah.
But I was enjoying us listening to us chat around Doctor Who.
So Simon, what happened?
Well, I think we'd done about 1 episode, hadn't we, the Phonic Screwdriver?
Yeah.
And other than that, we just chatted. And I'd come in to see you at the library, and we
About
just
the Blue Box podcast, though.
It felt wrong not to ask you.
But
well, this is what I was going to
Lee's
say. I was going to
it?
come to was that Lee came to me and said, "My mate J.R. Southall," and I said, "Not."
I didn't say
the,
my mate, did I?
You didn't.
Oh, dear.
J.R. Southall, and I said, "What? The J.R. Southall who I kept seeing on Facebook and seemed to know everything about Doctor Who. He's an irritating bastard."
Yeah.
Right, that's it.
Bit of a burk.
You guys, I'm going.
And I said, "Oh, I can't believe you know him." And you said, "Yeah, he lives in Exeter." I had no idea because I had seen your face on Facebook and what have you, and seen you around some of the
I thought
forums
I'd
and what have you.
emailed you, though, before he spoke to you. Had I not done that?
No.
No, I'm remembering it wrong then.
So
Anyway, go on.
But
sorry.
anyway, yeah, Lee basically came to me rather uncomfortably and sort of said, "I've been asked to do this podcast by JR for
Yeah.
Starburst magazine, but I'm still going to do the radio shoot." And it was almost, almost like he was being unfaithful to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Bless him.
Yeah, it felt like that.
But
Did
then,
you feel like you were
but
being
then within a-
unfaithful to Nerdology, Mark?
Not at all, no.
Okay.
but
You whore.
within a very short amount of time, Lee came back to me and said, JR's asked whether he'd be interested in joining in as well. I was like, wow, brilliant.
And then, of
pod
course,
whore.
we had that first night
Yeah, you
that you
poor
came
man.
along to, and Lee couldn't make it.
Lee couldn't
so
make it.
you were a complete stranger to me and Mark.
Yeah.
And we tried to record an episode, and it didn't really go to plan.
Yeah, it wasn't perhaps the best idea we've ever had.
No, recording it completely cold.
It
was
wasn't
like,
too bad considering, though, was it?
No, to
No.
be fair, that episode's okay, but I wouldn't want to have put it out.
And if you're listening to this, you are able to hear
What's
that.
Yeah,
really
exactly,
odd is
yeah.
I, as a person, I have enough trouble going in a room when I don't know anyone anyway, and to think that I sat down with you two and just did it. So, it says a lot
yeah, yeah.
of how well we get on.
Yeah, yeah.
And of
So-
course the subject matter, gels,
Yes.
people together.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
all got, like...
I was just outside, Simon. I mean, I could have come in at any point. I just wanted to see how you'd get on.
Yeah.
And you struggled. I mean, you did really well.
Right, I think we should get on and record our next episode proper now.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think next week we'll maybe talk a bit more about ourselves, because I
Hmm.
think, with these short podcasts, I think that's a good way to start.
Such a
So that you
raging
get to know us.
egomaniac, aren't you?
No, I think it's...
Well,
if these people have joined this folder, they're obviously interested in us enough
And they've
to want
invested
to
in
listen
us.
to a bit
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
Time and
We're
yeah.
also, if you want to join in on the conversation, that we're having tonight.
Well, this was what I was about to say before I
about
signed
anything
off.
at all, music or
I
food
was going
or
to say, before I sign
holidays.
off, Will you let me talk?
No.
Honest to God.
Uh-huh.
Next time, in 2 weeks, when we do the next podcast and we get another chance to do another one, I'd quite like to sit down and just do other things we like.
Yeah, okay, let's do that.
Right, just for 15
Well,
minutes.
there are constants. I find it very interesting.
No, I
that,
don't want to do it now. I want to do it next time.
Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying, I'm validating what you're saying is that
Okay.
to touch on other subjects doesn't necessarily
I don't
mean
know
that it's
about the
nothing to do with
subjects
Doctor
that
Who.
you're touching.
Well,
Oh my God.
And on
We've
that-
got another episode to record. Yes, no, I completely get what you're saying.
yeah.
What I would like to say is, because this episode will go into the folder in the next couple of days, right?
Mm.
So if you're listening to this in the folder and it's in the first few days and we've not recorded the next episode yet, which will be the first Thursday in August, I think. If it's between now and then, email us, say what other things than Doctor Who you like, and we'll do an episode perhaps about the other things we like, and another episode, another 15-minute for the folder podcast,
Yeah.
reading your emails back and just generally discussing the kind of other things a Doctor Who fan likes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, right.
Are we going to call it In the Folder?
No, it's just going to be called Bonus 1,
Oh,
Bonus
that's-
2.
That's dull.
Bonus.
Bonus
yes.
one, bonus 1 and 2.
You know, I was thinking
That's
about
better.
that when you were talking about your arachnophobia earlier.
Arachnophobia?
And when you hear the Saturday Feeling podcast, you'll know what we're talking about. Simon's arachnophobia.
Yeah.
Right, and on that note, we better get on, and we're about to do a mammoth episode on John Nathan Turner. Cheerio.